So our test review is on Schoology. I'll kind of walk through how that's going to look. Our test, we're actually going to take in two different parts because of our only half-hour sessions, and we're going to take it during our Zoom meetings. So our test will be on Friday. We're going to start it from 10:50 to 11:20, so you'll get that half hour. And then the second part of your test will take place on Tuesday, December 8th, which is next week. Again, during our time slot from 10:50 to 11:20. Today, I have a test review, and then tomorrow's virtual, Wednesday's virtual. So I'll have more test review for you tomorrow, and then you don't have geometry on Thursday, but then we'll take our test on Friday, the first part of our test. Like I said, it'll be broken up into two different parts. It's going to basically be by the learning targets. So the first half are going to be on Friday, and then the second half will be on Tuesday next week. And I can kind of show you what that will look like. Before we get started into the test review, what questions do you have? All right, so we're going to be taking our test on Schoology. So if you actually, I'm going to head over to Schoology. And so I'm in geometry down here, week of the 30th. Like I said, you must be on the Zoom time to take the test. You click over to here, and the test will actually be here on Friday when we get going. It will be on Schoology, kind of similar to the like lesson quizzes, but this is how the test review is right now. Let me just make sure that it's enabled. I had that issue the other day. Okay. So now you should be able to get into that now as well. And then I have to go to preview. Mine's set up different, but and so the test and the review is the same way. It's broken up by the learning target. So finding the sum of the interior and exterior angles. Remember, we had that formula to find the sum, and that's in your notes. So n minus 2 times 180 is going to give you the sum of your interior angles. And then you can divide that by the number of angles to find what each angle measure is. Your actual test will probably be more multiple choice than short answer, where these are kind of all a short answer question. So we talked about finding the sum of interior and exterior angles. Exterior angles, remember, the exterior angles are always good. The sum of them is always going to add up to 360 degrees. Then we looked at parallelograms. And we talked about certain properties of parallelograms. Parallelograms are a four-sided shape where opposite sides are parallel and opposite sides are congruent. We also looked at that the diagonals bisect these angles. So this angle is the same as this angle. And the opposite angles are congruent as well. So we had some problems along these with angles, or we could do some with side lengths. Remember, the opposite sides are going to be congruent. So for this one, you're going to solve for both x and y. Another one like that. Then we looked at determining if it's a parallelogram or not, which is basically using those properties again and maybe finding an angle that fits with it, or finding a value of x that fits with making it a parallelogram. Then we looked at determining whether a parallelogram is a rhombus or a rectangle. We even did some square stuff as well. So rhombuses, remember, all four sides are the same, or all four sides are congruent. A rectangle, all four interior angles are the same, or they're all 90 degrees. And then finally, we talked about trapezoids and kites. And we looked at these two angles are supplementary, or they're going to add up to 180. These two angles are congruent, and these two base angles are congruent as well. The mid segment is 1/2 of the sum of the other bases. So AB plus DC is equal to 1/2 of LM. We have that in our formulas. And you can always look over your notes as you're working on this review. You can look at, rewatch those videos if you have questions for sample problems. And then we had where we looked at those angles. At this point, before we get started, what questions do you have?